I studied and learned for a purpose, my dear.
Wow. Wow.
Would they approve my message? Would they?
When I foolishly let you know that you remember what you said.
Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow.
You're listening to Happiness Rocks Radio. Here we tune in, we tap into the feeling of health and wellness. So happy you're here. The goal of life is to make your heartbeat match the beat of the universe, to match your nature with nature. Words by Joseph Campbell. Welcome back to Happiness Rocks. The average person thinks 12,000 to 70,000 thoughts per day. Not surprising when you think about it. We do a lot of thinking, don't we, in a day? And 95% of those are repetitive thought loops. So before we get too far into this episode, I just want to take a moment for us to just reflect back on our day. Or maybe even just our week, our month. Has there been thoughts that are always in your mind? Maybe they're good ones, maybe they're not so good ones. If you think back when you're sitting at the stoplight in traffic, is there thoughts that keep coming to you that are very familiar? When you're out for your walk, when you are out getting groceries, just like in your normal day-to-day life, or like first thing in the morning or right before sleep at night. What are those repetitive thoughts that are in your mind? If you struggle with anxiety, or you are just seeking a little more peace in your life, my hope is that today's episode will really help you. Today I'm talking to Fellerpine. I know, super cool name. He is a nature enthusiast. He is a nature photographer and videographer. And he has found his own healing through giving himself those intentional moments. Exploring nature, heading out to new trails. Letting himself just feel the moment. In today's show, we're going to talk about hiking and the magic of finding new trails and places, essentials to bring on your hiking journey, as well as a touch on music for that perfect summer road trip playlist. I hope today's episode helps you explore new trails. A reminder that it really is up to you to make these moments happen. All too often, we think that it's our situation, our circumstances, that make it so we aren't able to see new places or feel nature or be in nature or just have those meaningful moments that we know our soul needs. But really, it's up to you. So let's meet Fellerpine. Where did the name originate? How did you guys come up with that?
So the name itself, I guess I just wanted to have like a slight newfie twist on the name. So that's where the feller comes from. And pine, I mean, it reflects back to nature, right? So I got that, and I wanted it to sound appealing to all.
You love connecting people with nature and presence. If I had to guess, you yourself have found a lot of healing in nature. Is that right?
Oh my God, absolutely. Like, just from like what it's offered me over the past just 2 years alone is incredible. Just to experience the feeling and have so much gratitude for like that present moment when you're out there and just finding this like peaceful place and just embracing it for what it is.
When I was watching your videos on YouTube, I really truly appreciated how like you took the, I don't know how to say it, I guess the pretentiousness out of hiking, if that makes sense. there were points where you were just walking in your normal shoes, right? Like you weren't walking in the hiking gear and the stuff like the brand names and all of that. And I really resonated with that because to me, it's like it's not about the gear as much as the grounding in and the experiencing of it. I guess it was obvious when I watched your videos that you're not sponsored by a big brand or anything like that. You're just a guy simply exploring nature and enjoying it with this desire to share to others how healing nature can be. It doesn't have to be complicated.
I guess it really depends on like what you're planning on doing in that day trip. But like for me, like I always like to take like a small pot to boil water or make food, like a lighter. Even if you don't plan on having a fire, it's just good to be prepared, or like some flint or some matches. I always bring a mug because I like to have a cup of tea generally if I'm gonna sit down by the fire and enjoy it. And for teas, in a sense, like, you know, sometimes I'll forage like chaga or some dandelions in a sense, and I'll just like cook them in the pot itself. You know, I guess bring water unless if you know of a nearby spring. I like to bring like a knife for foraging as well. I kind of use it for like a creative expression. Sometimes I'll like carve my name, like Fellerpine, into little sticks of like dry wood, and I'll stick them up in trees.
Oh, I love that.
And just like leave that on the trail as like, you know, maybe someday somebody will come along and be like, oh, what's this?
Yes.
So like, you know, just kind of like get your name out there in another way.
Yeah, the right people will find that, right? The people who are aligned with what you are aligned with, or who are seeking what you are seeking. That's such a great idea. I do the same when I go to the beach or places like that. I'll sometimes write out Happiness Rocks podcast in the sand, and people do find it and they message you and they're like, it hit me at the exact time when I needed it. That's incredible. And this episode, it really helped me. Like, it's just a really nice example of surrender and just doing our part for something bigger to take place. Like, you know, doing our part to get our names out there and trusting that life will bring that match of a person who just happens to have said a prayer that day where they need help, they need guidance, and then they walk and they see Happiness Rocks podcast in the sand and maybe find an episode on feeling better or dealing with grief and loss, or, you know, morning routines or whatever it may be, or Fellerpine, right? Like finding that stick that says Fellerpine on it, and then finding you and the spirituality that you share and the nature that you share is just awesome. It's an awesome part of life.
Small little steps. I also like to bring like I'll bring an axe too, just for foraging and getting wood for a fire, or,
Okay.
you know, I also have like a foldable camp stove and a little campfire box per se that you can just like fill up with little tiny twigs and stuff. I would say the most important thing for me to bring though is honestly a journal, because sometimes like I'm out there and I'm like, oh, I got so many ideas, and especially when you're out in nature, I find just the creativity can just flow through you.
To somebody who's not used to going out in nature and is not really like a journaler, not used to journaling, can you just paint a picture of what that might feel like, or what that might look like what you write about? Just give us some examples, please.
I guess like I just like to write down like the thoughts that are going through my brain at the time when I'm out there, and whether it's to, I guess, put them into existence or to release them, I feel it's just important to write them down. I mean, not all of them. There's some stuff you obviously should just let go, like negativity or anything like that. But any of the positive stuff or anything that's resonating with me within that day, that's something that I will definitely be journaling.
Yeah, I know it's definitely the time where creativity abounds. I remember hearing an interview with songwriter Leif Vollebeck, and he said in this interview that most of his songs come to him either when he's out climbing trees or swimming, and I remembered that, and that brought a little magic into my heart. The reminder that, yeah, it's when we're feeling good, that's when we get to co-create with spirit. And when we're connected in nature, it is easier to co-create because we're tapped into the beautiful presence that's always there, right? So like that even brings this whole episode into what this whole episode is about, which is finding presence. Nature is such a great way to find presence.
Yeah, absolutely. I find like finding that like most quiet place possible for like myself too, to just listen to the sounds, like the water, the birds chirping, like, and just appreciating what once was all we really had, the feeling of that bare minimum.
The power of not being in the mind, right? I tend to be there quite a bit. I catch myself and it really does frustrate me. It's just part of my soul blueprint, I guess. Do you have any suggestions of how someone like me can go out into nature and totally let go of the thoughts of the mind, let go of that grip?
I mean, like, can we escape? Truly. Yeah, I don't know if it's so much about escaping, like for myself at least. I feel it's about willing to embrace it, embrace those thoughts, embrace the feelings and the doubt. Like the thoughts, they will come. So I think it's first that like you should become aware of them and where your thoughts are coming from. It's like, is there a needed action on this thought? Is it something that I should just let go? So I guess it's just about awareness and self-awareness. Like society has littered our mind with so much, especially in the sense of socials, and I'll say like full social media or media control in some sense, that we must, as often as possible, just realize where the implantation of the thoughts have come from.
Tuning into your senses when you're out there as well, right? Yeah, like really focusing and maybe follow that bird. Like see a bird up in the sky, well, follow it with your eyes. Follow the bird, see where it goes. It's gonna meet up with two other birds maybe, and then they're gonna go hang out and then maybe land into a tree. I don't know, that's a good way to just be distracted from the things of the mind and just focus on something that is so very simple, but so peaceful.
Another thing is like obviously doing a cold plunge or just like jumping in the water, like any time of year in that sense. If you know what you're doing, you gotta have your little fire prepared and everything, of course.
So you've probably had a lot of really beautiful nature experiences, and many of them can be really close to home.
Absolutely.
Can you let me know of like just a favorite nature experience and paint the picture, paint the story for the listeners?
I don't know if I could single out just one, but when I think back to the way it's made me feel or the way that I feel, nature has like almost taken my hand to like guide me through any of the doubt that I had about myself, or bring this love to everyone and everything around me. I just feel like, you know, some of this would be like some of the best solo adventures for that reason. I took myself across Newfoundland, not only to explore, but to find a piece of me that I felt I had lost. This was back a few years ago. And seeing all this beautiful stuff, I had no idea where I was going, but it just gave me so much gratitude for where I was and where I'm at in life, because there's truly no end to the beauty that nature offers out there.
What inspired you to create your YouTube channel? Because I know you have a really cool YouTube channel. Was it just kind of like organic? Did it just happen organically? Or was it something that you thought, hey, I'd like to do a project like this? Like, I know you are a photographer. Great photos, by the way. Yeah, let's talk about the YouTube channel.
The YouTube channel itself, I feel that was like, I've been preparing for that for a long time in like doing different video projects and just like preparing. Like I didn't know what my path was going to be with that YouTube channel. Like I remember I was doing gardening videos in a sense for a little bit, but I never ever did release those because I wasn't under the name of Fellerpine at the time.
Yeah.
So I guess for this YouTube channel, like Fellerpine, like that's what I was saying, is the creation of myself, and I wanted to share those life experiences that led me to this intention. And like I felt something deep inside myself after becoming more open while going through what I'll call like a spiritual awakening. I began to question everything, and like with that I knew I needed to share my voice with the world in whatever way I could. So you know, you go through like different relationships with your friends and like, you know, deaths in the family, or you awaken to this like system of, you know, a system of lies, I guess, in a sense. Right. And so it's not so much about just the videos, I feel I'm just getting my feet wet with like the self-expression, and I guess that's what the YouTube channel has been about so far, whether it's through podcasts or photography, and eventually hopefully some music of some kind.
Yeah.
I will continue to expand on the vision that I have with Fellerpine.
That's great. So it's like you're basically doing important work, getting your point across, getting your message across in an artful way, which is something that many of my listeners would be into hearing, because there are a lot of us who are very creative people. So to somebody who is sitting at home and they're just like, I feel really bored with life, like really bored with life. And they're like, man, I'd love to be an outdoorsy person. I'd love to be adventurous, but I've never been that. I've never been that before. I know that it's never too late to start. It's never too late to begin. What would you tell them if they asked you, how do I even start? What is the first step to becoming an outdoorsy, adventurous person?
I would think a first thing that you have to do is not make excuses for what your time, what you should be dedicating your time to. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. Another thing I'll say is, put down your phone once in a while, put down the technology, and just embrace the life that's in front of you. When it comes to going out and exploring, for me, it's not always about like finding or about a specific location. I like to find places that are unique and not typically like a crowded or popular area. So that might be a good place to start for someone who's, maybe a little anxious about going out to places that are, popular and littered with people or different things. Not to say that I don't appreciate those places, because obviously there's beauty there, and that's what makes them an attraction that they are, right?
Right.
But I just feel like there's no better feeling than going out, having no plan, and ultimately coming across these most beautiful places or views without even knowing of their existence previously. Take yourself off the main trails and see the unseen.
I think it's the hardest part is to literally just show up, to just literally do it, to be like, okay, Saturday, I'm doing this, and I'm really doing this, right? I think that for some reason it's natural to not do these things, even though they're what we all need.
You can't expect someone to push you to do it either. You gotta take the action within yourself. It's only you who's been there for yourself every single morning of your life. There's no one that's coming to save you, and the healing that you seek is truly inside of yourself. So there will be people to guide you through any doubt or anything, but no one knows you better than you know yourself. So when I go out there and embrace nature, I just find that just brings me back to the basic roots of myself, and that's what I love about it.
Oftentimes, if I'm going to go for a hike, a friend will be like, oh, I'll come. And, I used to be like, oh, sure. And lately, it has to be the right friend. It has to be okay, you're cool if we don't talk and we just listen.
Yeah.
And, if not, that walk is literally nothing but just catching up. You're not even noticing you're out in nature. You're just blah, 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 blah. Oh, how's this person? You
want to avoid the drama. So you surround yourself with the right people if you're planning on going on those hikes with them, for sure.
Yeah, and just kind of have a little talk about intention before going in. Let's just refill our cup. Let's let nature refill us instead of us just pouring out whatever's happening in our life, whether it be something positive or negative. Let's just let nature be our friend right now. I really miss my dog for that. She was the very best hiking partner.
I was allergic to dogs most of my life and cats, so I didn't embrace them for what they were. But in the past few years, through eating fully plant-based, and this is why truly I wanted to go down the plant-based route, I've been able to almost completely eliminate all the allergies and things that I've suffered from. Obviously there's still some issues sometimes, but I find most of the time is when I'm eating more starchy foods, or I'm not fully embracing the alkaline version of that diet, or as close to it as I can get, because it's quite hard living in a place like Newfoundland where we raised on fish and the fishing industry and the hunting and like meat and potatoes type diet, right? So you just kind of got to find your own way. And it's still so hard, like the people that you're surrounded with, like they don't understand. They're like, oh, you're not getting protein, I'm like, there's more vitamins out there than protein. Like there's more to it.
You really had to take a look at yourself and really get true with who you really are.
You kind of just got to take a step back and see yourself from the bigger picture and look at things from all perspectives rather than the one single-minded one that you would have had.
That is a way to live life in all areas, right? Look at every perspective.
Absolutely.
It gives you understanding for how others feel, as well as you find your truth in that way as well. What was the catalyst that helped you really decide to be like, okay, I'm going to shift from who I've always been to become just true? Like, what was the catalyst? Was there something big that happened, or was it just this natural unfolding?
I would say it's kind of natural, but I have a really good friend that I would say that me and him went through not a traumatic experience together, but we both had our own traumas that we were dealing with at a time. We bonded, and it wasn't about, at first, it wasn't even really about, we weren't bonding over the trauma itself. It was about, we just became friends, but then the two of us kind of just started to look deeper into things, I guess, right? And with that came like the spiritual awakening, I'll call it, but that came with just starting to question the world that was around us. And I found through certain music that we were listening to, we were like, whoa, did you hear that? Like, did you hear what they're talking about in this song? So, we kind of really bonded over that. Became, I guess you'd call him one of my best friends for sure.
I was going to ask you what's on your road trip playlist. You just mentioned music, but first I want to continue on with the whole spiritual thing. Like, if I go to your digital creator profile on Instagram, Fellerpine, it says like plant-based spiritual photographer music. So those are your things. When you say spiritual, do you there's probably not a label, like there's not a box that you've put yourself in. It's just that you're connected, or do you have a certain viewpoint that you'd like to share at all?
I feel like we're all part of this, right? We're all we're all one. I just wanted to have that there to find people like yourself and like other people in this realm of thinking to find those energies out there in the world, because like I said, living in Newfoundland, there's not so much of this here. It's other than like my good buddy, I don't have too many people that are following this spiritual path with myself. So anything that I see or anything that I hear is like I'm getting it through social media, and I'm not saying that there isn't people here. There definitely is a few, but there's not a huge community, I'll say.
I think that's why it's awesome to put your beliefs into art, because then, as you said, you attract the same energies, right? Or you inspire, and that was actually the intention at the beginning of this episode. Was your mission today on this podcast was to inspire when I asked you, and with your YouTube channel itself, that was one of the key words you mentioned, was that you want to inspire people, and that might just be by living your truth and really, grounding into the fact that we are all one. It's all connected, and it's a great way to do it by putting it with music and artwork and photography and adventures. I love it. I really do.
Yeah, I feel like nature was the best way for me to express it, especially like after I felt like once I got my camera and I just started going out and appreciating nature a lot more, like taking photos of just the smallest, most simplest things, and like that there just gave me so much gratitude for those moments.
What kind of gear do you use? You probably use professional cameras.
It's nothing too fancy, label as photographer. I kind of just put that label on myself because that's what I mean.
You are a photographer, man. You've got gorgeous
photos. But like, but people would be like, oh, he didn't go to school for this, so he's not actually a photographer in that sense, right?
That mindset I feel is gone. I really do.
Yeah.
I believe that is old news, because we can teach ourselves anything, and also like, I actually had this conversation with someone not that long ago, and it was, the way I teach, it's more through intuition. With my workshops, with my retreats, and my podcast, it's a lot about intuition. Intuition is the writer of what the episode will be about. Like, intuition chooses, and then my logic will, yes, it'll research, it'll make sure that I'm teaching the right things. But a lot of the episode comes from that place of intuition. And I think that's really important. And like, I recently did my Reiki Masters, and my teacher was like, the magic is when you make it your own by incorporating your magic into it, right? Well, if you want to be a gardener, be that. If you want to be a photographer, be that. If you want to be a singer, sing.
We are definitely some sort of creation. There's no, we didn't just appear here.
Yeah.
And I feel like and I get this influence from a lot of people that I listen to, and I just feel like we are the gods of ourselves too, with that. And we are what we make of our own life. We are the creation of ourselves fully. So that goes back to what I'm trying to stand for, I guess.
I know you love music. What do you suggest? What should we listen to? I always love asking this question. I take this podcast sometimes and I'm like, okay, we're going to pretend we're traveling. What is your music right now? What are you loving?
I don't have like a music streaming service. So over the years, I'm going to say over the last maybe 10 years, but more so in the last probably 5 years, I've been collecting albums. So my favorite thing, like, I guess you mean road trip, I'll be listening to music in my car, and that's one of my favorite places to do it because I just feel like I'm embracing it more than when I'm in, like, at home or somewhere else, because there's so many other distractions in front of me. Some of my favorite artists, like, it would definitely be Pink Floyd. I'll definitely have to put them up there. I don't really have like a specific song, but I can definitely share some artists or albums that have resonated with me. I'm not sure how much you're into hip hop, but that's pretty much most of like what my music is in that sense. So like, and obviously there's, I'll say there's some negativity in music, but I think it's about listening to the right stuff and being aware of like a negative message in a music, in a sense, if you know what I mean. You take the positive out of it and you just kind of leave the other stuff, right? Whatever resonates with you. Like that's the way I take it. Like there's some stuff in lots of music that I don't know, I don't like fully resonate with that at all. So I just kind of J. Cole, these are like people that you may know. I'm sure you know of a few of those. Underachievers is one that I found really helped me through some difficult times. So they're like a hip-hop group. It was a duo. I actually don't think they're still together anymore, but they had a couple of albums, and I guess that's what it's about for me, is like picking out the good albums, you know what I mean, or the ones that resonate with me. But there's a couple that really like brought me through different times that I really am like so grateful for, to be like inspired by these people. I guess like a couple more would be, and these would probably be honestly a couple of my favorites. L'Orange in Mellow Music Group is the name of the production company, I believe. And some more people from there would be Open Mike Eagle, Quelle Chris. So I find a lot of these people are a Koreatown Oddity, Seba Capstead. A lot of these people to me are people that I found just had a different way of going about it. They're not necessarily the best singer, but they know how to express themselves. And I think that's what like the inspiration came from for me. And not only that, they express similar ideologies to myself, right? So I think that's what you look for in music, would be things that resonate with you the most. And more recently, I've been really liking some old, or I guess inspired by Bob Marley, but some new style reggae music, and Mike Love and Natalie Rise. I find both of them, and just the way that their music uplifts me into feeling like I'm on the right path in life. Hey Rosetta has since obviously split apart, but Tim Baker is still releasing a lot of music, and I try to get to almost all of his shows here when he comes and performs. And I mean, two of his newest albums they're beautiful. So it's the main singer from Hey Rosetta.
I fell off the music scene. I didn't realize. I didn't even know they broke up. I just remember years ago loving their concerts. Like, so good, so good. Well, I asked for music recommendations. Usually when I ask that, people are so like, oh God, I don't know. Thank you for like literally showing up with music.
Sorry, I didn't have any like specific songs.
No,
it's more about like I said, albums for me. So
I feel like we have a whole Fellerpine playlist right here.
Oh yeah,
so
you got one.
Fellerpine road trip.
Yeah.
And before we go, do you have any last words of wisdom for the listeners of Happiness Rocks?
You know, we are powerful when a thought is followed with action. That is something I'll leave you with.
I love that. Thank you. Great advice.
Of course. Thank you.
So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode with Fellerpine. And I do want to leave you with two last little bits of advice when you are embarking on nature and the presence of nature. So the first one is if you are out in nature and you're feeling yourself having an issue getting out of the mind, a good tip is to just focus on one of your senses. Maybe you're going to focus on sound. So you're going to notice all of the sounds you hear. Or maybe you're going to focus on sight and notice just all of the colors. It's really good to hone in on a specific sense, and that will get you out of the mind and more into the present moment. And the second bit of advice I'd like to share is to bring your sketchbook in your backpack. So, you have your tea, you have your journal, maybe a snack. Bring your sketchbook and some pencil crayons and just make a deal with yourself to set up somewhere and just draw what you see. It's a really peaceful thing to do. And just leave perfectionist out of the way. Just draw what you see. It's a really fun thing to do for your creative side, and it puts you into present. It makes you look like, hey, what's the most beautiful thing that I can see right now? And then draw it. Thank you for listening to Happiness Rocks Radio. Remember to prioritize your own vibration.
I studied and learned for a purpose, my dear.
Wow. Wow.
Would they approve my message? Would they?
When I foolishly let you know that you never what you said,